Okay, yesterday we saw the shita of Machlokes Rav and Rabbi Yehud and Rabbi Yochanan regarding a Shabbos to Yontif. The Shabbos, if an egg was born on one, you eat it on the next day. Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yochanan said you couldn't. Rav says you couldn't. And we pass him like Rav. Rav said there's three mekaymis we pass him like Rav regarding an egg. The first one was a Shabbos Yontif the Shabbos. The second was on Shnei Yontif Shel Golius. If an egg is born on the first day of Yontif and it goes into the second day of Yontif, we had a machlokes between Rav and Rabasi. Rav said one born on day number one can be eaten on day number two. Rabasi said it cannot. We pass him like Rav lekula. The third case where we're going to pass him like Rav lechumra is an egg born on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. This is the sugya of Rosh Hashanah, whereas we see Rosh Hashanah is different than any other Yontif, and the fact that we keep even Eretz Yisrael 2 days of Yontif. Rosh Hashanah that 2 days of Yontif. So just derech hakdama. The reason what happened was by Rosh Hashanah they were late. If they were late, they came late one day, and they used to say the carbon time in the morning. They said shel chayil. If the Eidos came later in the day, so they would make the first day Rosh Hashanah that day. So if they came before the carbon tamid shel ben arbayim, they would know it's Yontif, and they would say the appropriate shear of Yontif on the carbon tamid shel ben arbayim. So what happened is that they came late. They didn't after the carbon tamid shel ben arbayim, assuming that it was choil. They said the shear of choil, and it turned out it was kodesh. So they made a gezerah the following: if they don't come after the time by mincha, but they don't come by mincha, we won't accept the Eidos anymore. Good, we won't accept the Eidos anymore now, and automatically we'll make the second day of Rosh Chodesh. The means the following: comes the 30th day, the 30th day of Elul. You begin the day. Everyone is treating it as a day of kedusha because Ken Zayin the Eidim going to come, and it's going to be Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Hashanah, so we begin a day the kedusha. The day would extend. Let's say Eidim would come and they would testify. We would continue the day b'kedusha, and then the next day would be chayil. That's what would happen. Good. But now, once you're telling me that you didn't begin the day b'kedusha, and the Eidim don't come after mincha, you'll finish it b'kedusha. Automatically, then the next day is Rosh Chodesh. So it comes out that both days are kodesh. The first day because of the takana, and the second day because, in fact, it is Rosh Chodesh because we didn't accept the Eidos until the next day. So therefore, Rosh Hashanah is different than any other day. It's not a suffix. We don't know which day. Once the day began, they made a takana. If they're not going to come by a certain time, it's kodesh, and that's the way it was. And therefore it's 2 days. So an egg born on one day would not be permitted the second day because it's what we call in the vernacular a yuma arichta. It's one long day. And this is the whole source for Rosh Hashanah being different. We're going through the whole sugya of it today, and it's very appropriate. I can't believe every Rosh Hashanah, here we are. Another Rabbi Rosenzweig loves when the daf stems with the current times. This is pretty fabulous. This is pretty fabulous. So says the Gemara. We're on Gimel Dalin on Beis, and Itmar 3 lines to the bottom. Shnei Yomim Toivim Shel Rosh Hashanah. The 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Shmuel Amit Rabbi Nolda Bezeh. Both Rabbi and Shmuel are of the opinion if it's born on one day, it's also on the other day. Did nan initially, but Yishayna Hayim Makab made the Chodesh Kol Hayoyim. They used to become Eidos Chodesh the whole day. So if any time of the day they came, he said that day is Rosh Chodesh, guys, then the next day would be Chayil. So Rosh Hashanah would be 1 day and that's it. However, Pamachas, Nishtau Eidim Lavoi, Amin Aleph, the Eidim were what? They were lax in coming. They came late. V'niskalku Halviim B'shir. And the Levium, they made a mistake in the shear because they said the shear of Chayil on the Karban Shel Ben Arbayim. Iskinu, they made a takana. So Yiyu Mikablim, they made a takana. They'd only up till mincha. Then bo edim and mincha ulamayla. If they came after mincha, they would continue to go ahead and keep the day kodesh ulamacha kodesh because since they didn't accept the Eidos, the first day was not Rosh Chodesh. But again, they kept it b'kedusha. You always had to begin the day b'kedusha on the smach that Eidim would show up before, right? They had to begin the day b'kedusha because if Eidim show up before mincha, then it's going to be what? It's going to be Rosh Chodesh. and in this case Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, they made the takana, they didn't come, and that was it. Now Memela, the next day is Rosh Hashanah because automatically it's Rosh Hashanah. So now that's where you get Rosh Hashanah being what? One day. So therefore, Rav and Shmuel, they both have the opinion, one that's born on one day cannot be eaten the next day. It's not Shtei Kedushas. It's not one day is Kodesh, one day is Chayil. It's totally Kodesh, Yom, a Richta of Kedusha, Memeli can't be eaten. So this is the third din of Rav that we said regarding the halacha of an egg. The first one was Shabbos the Chayil. The second one was what? The Shtei Yom Tov Shel Golius, which Rav was Mekel. And the third case, what? A Be'er Shenolda, the first day of Rosh Hashanah to the second day of Rosh Hashanah. This concludes that inyan. Amar Rava, Mitakonis Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai ve'elech, from the Takana of Yochanan ben Zakkai ve'elech, Beitzah Muteres. The Beitzah born on the first day of Rosh Hashanah would be permitted. Did none. Mishachar Beis Hamikdash, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and no longer did you have to worry about making a mistake in the Shir Shel Yoim because there was no carbon. However, they still were Makadosh the Chodesh through the Re'iyas Eidos. Key point, guys. Key point. Even after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and no longer could they be karbanis, but they still were Makadosh the Levana Al Yedei Eidos. Here's going to be Yochanan Zakkai. She mekablam edus hachodesh kol hayom. Again, because it doesn't apply anymore. The reason that you shouldn't. The whole reason was you shouldn't make a mistake in the carbon of the shear. There is no carbon, so there's no mistake in the shear. So then he was metakin. You'd say the whole day. Now, Amalei Abaya for Rav Shmuel Nemet Shavayu Beitzah Asura. So what is Rav going to do with Rabbi Yochanan? Guys, Rav and Shmuel are big heavy hitters, but Rabbi Yochanan is a Tana. So why do Rav and Shmuel say that it's Rav and Shmuel lived after the Churban bias? What do they do with the takana of Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai? So that you accept the Eidos. Now let's ferois. If you accept the Eidos, that means the first day of Rosh Chodesh. The first day is Rosh Chodesh, and the next day is Chayil, right? And therefore, Shtei Kedushos, and then Be'er Shenolda B'zeh, Mutaris B'zeh. That's the love of accepting the Eidos, right? Once it's two kedushas, then it should be okay. Amalei, Aminul Chana, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Yeah, Amalei Rav Shmuel. I'm bringing you the biggest heavy hit. I'm bringing you a Tan Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, and you're telling me Rav Shmuel matter it. Well, Rav Shmuel Kasha Mas Nisan. What do they do with Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai? Like Kasha, Halon v'Halahu. The difference between us and Bavel and Eretz Yisrael. Says Rashi, first white line, Halam v'halahu, l'minei Eretz Yisrael, shoysin yom echad, muteres, it'd be mutter to eat the egg. Aval didan b'nei goyla asura, sharidayin unoisin oisha shnei yamim, because we still make it 2 days. V'idem kibet chila, and it's still the same 2 days as what when the takana before the takana. If they oisa takana b'shayna, loim if they suffix. So guys, that's the key. In other words, Rosh Hashanah, when you keep it 2 days, it was never al suffix. You were keeping out 2 days because of the original takana that they didn't accept Eidos. So when we keep in Chutz La'aretz Rosh Hashanah, it's not Sveika D'Yoma. It's not Sveika D'Yoma. It's based upon, predicated upon that original din that what we didn't accept Eidos from Mincha and above, and therefore what it was one long day. That's the key to the sugya here, right? In other words, you can keep 2-day yontis for 2 different reasons, and tremendous nafkamin in halacha. You can keep 2-day yontis al suffix. You don't know which day yontif is. Maybe one is yontif, one's chayil, and then there will be a het to mata the egg. Versus no, you're keeping 2 days. You know why? Because in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, they did not accept Eidos. They started the day in Kodesh, and when Eidos came late, and there was a problem with the takana shir, and we didn't. What did we do? We said automatically the next day's Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, what? It's al suffix. It was Yom HaRichta. So therefore, us in Chutz La'aretz, we do like what? Rav and Shmuel, that it's asa. In Eretz Yisrael, the Kana was overridden by Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, it was mutter. So that would be one way to learn. Continue Rashi. Hilka Choyav V'lei Pasku Me'etzleinu. It never stopped for us. Mishas Chalna when it began. Ein lahakol. There's no cooler in Chutz La'aretz for what? For 2-day yontif by Rosh Hashanah. And to say that what it's a suffix, it's not so. The kivin like Pasco saw takana me'etzleinu, since that original takana never stopped. Shana achas la'asay echad, that even one day Adayin v'isruna harishona amadnu. It's still in the original what? The original takana of what? Of one long day. Liyosim kiyayim arach. Guys, very geschmack, right? Guys, it gives you a whole, right? It's a whole different, this is such a crucial, it's really crucial understanding of the whole lineage of Rosh Hashanah, why Rosh Hashanah is different. That we keep 2 days of Rosh Hashanah is predicated upon the takana, that if they didn't come at a certain time, that's it. The kedusha that we began at the beginning of the day will continue until the next day and into the next day, which is Rosh Hashanah. Okay, halam v'halam, very geschmack. Rabbi Yosef Amar, okay, Rabbi Yosef, now Rabbi Yosef want to also deal with the question of what of Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yosef Amar following. After the kind of Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai that said that you would accept Avis, the Elach Beitzah Asura. The Beitzah would still be Asa. In other words, usually, if you would accept Eidos, that means that day would be Kodesh and the next day would be Choyel. In our sugya that translates, if it's born the first day, it's mutter the second day, right? The corollary, guys, the corollary. If it's one day Kodesh, one day Chayil, that translates to, well, then if the egg is born on day number 1, on day number 2 is Asa. So we had a problem. Like Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai, who did away with the original takana of not accepting Eidos after Mincha. So therefore, the Beis should be mutter the second day. Says Rabbi Yosef, even after the takana, the egg is still Asa. And we'll see why in a second, right? Even though he did away with the takana, and if he did away with the takana, yeshleimai, there are 2 kedushais. Nonetheless, we'll say the egg is Asa. The tailada of that halacha is Asa. Why would we say that? My timer, habidav shebeminyan. The count to go ahead and make the vote to say that the day is mutter is a davar shebeminyan. The chol davar shebeminyan tzarich minyan achal lahatira. You need another minyan to go ahead and matter it. Let's see Rashi here. Davar shebeminyan beitzah zu neseretz b'kibus chachamim. This Beitzah became us as a result of a bunch of Chachamim coming together. Shelinu, they were voted, Vigamru, and they concluded, La'asayson Shnei Yamim Kedusha Achas. To make it, right, that was the original Takana. Im loibo Eidim Fnei Mincha. V'chol ha'osim Shnei Yamim Machavs Kain Asush. And anyone who makes it 2 days is for that reason. Shem loibo Eidim Bezin Kain Mincha. So Tzarech Minyan Achas, Sheyim Nulach V'yatriu. You need another minyan to come together and matter it. So in other words, Rabbi Yosef held that there was no power over here to matter. The Chay Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai was matter. We'll see that. Okay, so he wants to say that there was no power to override that original takana, and therefore it's one long day. So the original getting together was a davar sheva minyan. The Gemara is going to ask an obvious question. The davar sheva minyan wasn't regarding the egg; it was regarding the 2 days kedusha. Okay, we'll get to that. Now the Gemara digresses. It gives 3 sources. How do you know that davar sheva minyan, and then the reason doesn't apply anymore? That you still need another minyan. Meaning, they came together. What's the whole reason that they made it that you didn't accept This is because of the shear. That doesn't apply anymore. The base of was destroyed. Nonetheless, you need a davar sheva minyan. You need another bezdin coming together to validate and say no. Okay, it's mutter. Even though the reason to say it's us is no longer there, you still need a bezdin. That's the key to the sugya. Guys, listen to what I just said. They made a din because of a reason. That reason is gone. You still need a bezdin to vote together of substance to override that. What's the case over here? They got together and they said we're not accepting Eidos after Mincha because of the problem that the Kli share might be what ruined. Based on this is destroyed, doesn't apply anymore. Still need about a bezdin to go ahead and override it, even though the reason doesn't apply. And we're going to have 3 sources. Good? Geschmack. Says the Gemara. I'm Rabbi Yosef. No, I mean, what I know, this one, the Siv. Lechem or lahem, shuba lechem lahem. We know by Matan Torah that men had to separate from their wives 3 days before the Shleshim Hagbala, and then after Matan Torah it says what? Shvu lechem lechem, go back to what? To your tents. So we're going to give. That's the first source. Second source, v'omer b'masha chayovel hema yalu bahar. You weren't able to go on the mountain, but when you hear the sound of the horn, you can go back on the mountain. The Tanya of Mishnah, Kerem Ravoy, guys. The first 3 years of a cycle is Orla. The next year is Netar Avoy by a Kerem school Kerem Ravoy, and has a loch of what of Ma'aseh Sheni. You have a lot of Ma'aser Sheni, you don't have to schlep the fruit to Yerushalayim. You paid it on money, go to Yerushalayim and buy money. So here's halacha, very interesting halacha. They wanted Yerushalayim that when people be oila, that the marketplaces should be full of fruit. So if you were in a certain jurisdiction of Yerushalayim, you would bring your fruit up. So this is Mishnah, and Ma'aser Sheni is discussing that inyan. If it was a day's journey away, you could be paid it. You didn't have the option to be paid. And this is the perimeter of the places where you would have to bring it up and not be paid. Elas min hadaroim, va'akraf min hatzafoin, lud min hamayriv, lud in the east, v'yardin min hamizrach, and yardin in the west. What's the reason that you couldn't be paid? In order that Yerushalayim should be adorned with Paris. There was a Keren Ravoy to Rabbi Eliezer in the Mizrach, Lud, in the east of Lud, and beside Kfar Tabi, in the side of a Kfar called Tabi on the base. He was too old and he couldn't schlep it up. So what he wanted to do is be mafgrid la'niyim, let the aniyim bring it up. So the Amullah, they told him, Talmida, Rabbi, Farnimnu alecha chavercha b'tiruha. The Chaveri already got together, and they removed what? They removed this takana that you had to bring it up. So there was a takana, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to schlep it up. It can bring money. Man chavercha is Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. Taima denimnu. The reason why there was batal is because Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai got a bezin together. If they weren't counted together, didn't get together, good. So now you have a very good, you have a raya. The reason why they wanted to go ahead, and the reason why you'd have to bring up to Yerushalayim is that Yerushalayim b'shas regel should be full of things. Rabbi Eliezer wanted to go ahead and said, I'm gonna be mafgrid. I just can't bring it up. They told Rabbi Eliezer, don't worry about it. They took off the takana. Now, why was it necessary to take off the takana? Beis Hamikdash had been destroyed. There was no reason to bring the fruit up there. Elawat Saraya, that you need Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai to go ahead and take off the original kana, even though the reason doesn't apply anymore. Again, that's the rule of thumb. So you have a clear raya, 3 cases. We have men going back to their wives. We have the case of going on Har Sinai, and we have the Keren Ravoy, 3 cases. And the Gemara is going to go through each one and say, why do you need one? But what's the kasha on one that you need the other? So anytime you have a oimer, there's always a kasha on the original one before that you need another one to teach me the same thing. So here you have 3 places to teach me the same thing. That a davar sheba minyan, tzarich bez nachal minyan to override it. So the first one was going back to your wives. The second was leaving Har Sinai, and the third one was Keren Ravoy. Keren Ravoy was pretty clear, right? Keren Ravoy is pretty clear. Yes, good. Now going back over the other 3. What about the other ones? It says, it says, be prepared for 3 days. And the Torah is going to I'll tikshu Elisha, don't touch your wife. Now, what does it say? So now, why should you touch your wife? Because the Matan Torah. Now, if the Matan Torah is over, or how about over? If the Matan Torah is over as well, right? Would you need someone to tell you to go back to your wife? No. Go back to your wife. So you see, even though the reason that doesn't apply anymore, you still need, like a Kadosh Baruch Hu's davar sheba minyan, to go back. What's your kasha on that? Who maybe that's teaching me, really you could back to your wife. Maybe it's just telling me a mitzvah of aina. There's a mitzvah of aina to go back to your wife. Chamsev says beautifully, the first mitzvah after the Matan Torah was to go back to your wife. And mitzvah of aina, to be with your wife. This is the answer to the malachim. The malachim wanted to know what Torah should stay in Shemayim, right? We wanted to show that no, there's an aspect of Torah that's a Bahamias, an aspect of Torah, a physical aspect of Torah that you have no shaykhs to, and that's why Dafka gave this afterwards. This was the answer why they couldn't stay in Shemayim. Very geschmack. Why you couldn't stay in Shemayim. But maybe it's for the mitzvah of aina, but not to tell me davar sheba minyan. So because of that question, we needed another source. The second source. What's the other source? Tashma, the Masha Chayovel, Hema Yalu Bahar. And when you hear the sound of the shofar, they can go up in the mountain. Michtik, Siv Gamet Sona Bakal Al Yira Malahorahu, right? But Masha Chayovel, it says Gamet Sona Bakal Al Yira. The Shekhinah is there. Once the Shekhinah is not there anymore, So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go on there. Why do you need to tell me? That's a davar minyan. Even though the shkin is not there anymore, you're blowing it a horn. With the rice, it's only because Baruch Hu said you need a davar minyan. Hashem said stay off the mountain. I will be the rabbanon made it of Karen Ravai, right? Loi, Tashma, Karen Ravai. That also davar minyan. But Karen Ravai the rabbanon become like kvan nimno lecha chabercha v'hatirua. So okay, so now l'chayra davar sheva minyan. Okay, so now we've proven davar sheva minyan. So now what did Yochanan ben Zakkai say? He said that it's what it's mutter. It's only that you're going to be makabel edis. You're going to be makabel edis, and Rabbi Yochanan says the egg would still be usher. Why? Because you need a davar sheva minyan that you never had to matter it. That's the getting back to it again. This is Rabbi Yochanan's text. Says Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yosef says. Even after this takana, the Beitzah is a surah, because there was never a heta to what, to the takana of what, of 1 day. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai said it's mutter because you accept the whole day. The chitem, what are you going to say? Beitzah nami im lo Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai v'shiruos. So you'll say when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he went ahead and he is a davar sheva minyan. Originally, they said that the whole first day is also, we're not going to accept the korban after mincha. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, davar sheva minyan, came back and took that off, and therefore the egg should be mutter. Ki imnu edus. When they were regarding accepting edus? A beitzah lo imnu, right? A beitzah, they were not what they didn't go ahead and say anything regarding the egg. So since they said only regarding the edus, that would be permitted, but not the egg. Right? Does Beitzah have anything to do with the minyan? Beitzah be'edus talia milsa. It's a edus, it's a Beitzah. Ishtri edus, Ishtri Beitzah. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, Rabbi Yosef, you wanted to go ahead and split hairs. You wanted to say, good, they did away with not accepting edus, and they did accept edus, even though it doesn't apply anymore because there's no cliche. But the isser on the egg still remains. There never was a din in the egg. The egg was totally whether it has 2 kedushas or 1 kedusha. So bishleim, the whole time it has 1 kedusha, the egg is usher. You just did away with the 1 kedusha, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, by saying you would accept edus after what? After mincha, that made the first day Rosh Hashanah, and the second day Chayil. If the second day is Chayil, the egg is accepted. So how can you, Rabbi Yosef, say it's usher? You again, you're splitting hairs. You're saying the following again. What our corollary: 2 days yontif, mutter egg. 1 day yontif, meaning yom harichta, aser egg. Yes. So originally 1 long day, no egg. Now Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai comes along and says 1 day, right? It says it's 1 day. 1 day. So if it's 1 day, it's 1 day, meaning it's Kodesh only this day, and the next day is Chayil. So the egg should be mutter. So how can you, Rabbi Yosef, tell me the egg is asa? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's removal of the takana of 1 Yom Harichta makes it 2 separate days. Once it's 2 separate days, the egg is mutter. So why? How can you, Rabbi Yosef, say the egg is asa? That's the kasha. Rav Ada bar Shalmei Travayu Mibei Luchis Amri, right? Af mitakonis Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai ve'elech Beitzah surah. Even after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that it's 2 days yontif, why? Because you would accept edus on after mincha, asura, the egg would be asa. My timer, meheru yibana beis hamikdash. The beis hamikdash will be rebuilt. V'yomru, and they'll say, ishtakid last year, miloi achalnu beitzah b'yontif sheni. Didn't we eat a beitzah the second day of Rosh Hashanah? Hashtanami, even now that the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, nechal, we could eat. Now, what's the reason they ate the last year? Because the whole reason for the edus coming doesn't apply, because there's no carbon. Once the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt and there's a carbon, you better make sure those edus get there before mincha. And they won't realize the last year was because there's 2 separate kedushas. Because we'll accept edus the whole first day, because we don't have to worry about being metakin klishir, being mekalkal klishir. And v'hashta kedusha achasi. But now, when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, we do have to worry about messing up the shira, and therefore we won't accept edis only up until mincha. And what's going to happen? They're going to go ahead and eat the egg incorrectly. So therefore, to avoid that possibility, it's one long day and the egg is asur. If that's the case, edis nami, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, edis nami lo in the kabel. When the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, you shouldn't accept any edis. My timer. Then we accept edis the whole day. Guys, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, why was it 2 days? Because the whole premise of accepting edis after mincha didn't apply. There was no carbon. So what's going to happen the next year when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt and you do need edis to come, before mincha, then it's going to reenact what we initially thought, that the whole day will be kodesh and the second day will be kodesh, and you can't eat an egg. So the Gemara is asking now the following: even after the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, how could Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's Bezdin accept edis the whole day? Aren't they worried about what's going to happen the next year? They'll say, "Oh, look at that! Last year they ate the egg on the second day, so and we can eat egg on the second day, right? Because again, they makabel edis the whole day. Well, also makabel the whole day, not realizing that by makabel edis the whole day, they're going to be makalkel them in share." Says the Gemara one more time. Ihachi edis nami, with Bezdin accepting the edis when the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Lein the kabel, they should not accept it. My time, what's the reason? Meheri Yibana Beis Hamikdash, Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt. V'yomu, and they'll say, Ishtakid miloi kabalnu edis hachodesh kol hayom kulo. Last year, do we not accept edis the whole day? Hashtanami the kabel, and also here we should accept it the whole day, despite the fact that we make they make a mistake in the share. Says no, there's not a comparable. Hashta hasam edis misor lebestin. Over here, the acceptance of edis is misor lebestin. Right? And therefore, they won't accept Bezdin, they won't accept it after mincha. Since it's totally in them, they won't accept it after mincha. We're not worried. It's in the control of Bezdin. Bezdin has total control. They won't make a mistake. They won't say, "Oh, last year we went the whole day, today we'll go the whole day." They'll know that last year there was no carbon. They know this year is a carbon. It's totally in Bezdin. It's not totally in the Hamoinam. It's not totally in the man in the street. What are you worried? Since last year they accepted it the whole day, this year they'll accept it the whole day. This year there's a Beis Hamikdash with a carbon, and there's a certain share that has to be said. They're not going to go ahead and accept it. No. How about an egg in the street by a regular guy? Beitzah chol masura. Beitzah is given over to everybody. Therefore, we have to worry that if you eat it last year, it's only because this year where there's a Beis Hamikdash and we won't accept it. It'll be one long yontif. You won't be able to eat it. So therefore, we asked it even the other times. Rabbi says, even after Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai said you'll accept edis the whole day, Beit Asura bi'asa. Miloi moida Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai shembo edim in aminchu l'mayla shenoidin oisa yom kodesh ulamacha kodesh. Would he not be moida that edim come afterwards that it's kodesh ulamacha kodesh? Okay, so this is an important insight. Rashi. Miloi moida afagav the tikkun lekabel edis hachodesh kol hayoim, even though he was makabel to say kiddush to accept edis the whole day, liyos moinin l'mayados min arishayin, to go ahead and count 15 days later that it should be Sukkos, 10 days later it should be Yom Kippur. Vafilu bo edem la'achan mincha aval milasas yontiv sheni lo nekra takana rishayin mikum kaima. Until now, we thought the following, guys. Here's what we thought. When Rabbi Yochanan is initially, again, let's go through the Gemara again. Time of the Beis Hamikdash. One time what happened? It was Rosh Hashanah. Could possibly be the first day of Rosh Hashanah. They started keeping kedusha. Comes along edis before the carbon chayil. The carbon, it's chayil. That's it. Next day, one day Rosh Hashanah, Zehu. Go ahead, start keeping Kedusha, comes the Ben Abayim, no edis comes. It's therefore why it must be Chayil. Edis show up, They blow it on the share. Good. They blow it on the share. So because really it was what it was kodesh, it wasn't chayil. Really it was kodesh, it wasn't chayil. So what did they do? They didn't accept edus after mincha. Automatically they said the share of kodesh on the share of chayil on the carbon. They didn't accept edus afterwards. They said the share of chayil on the carbon. Good. And automatically they made the day cut. Automatically they finished off B'Kedusha. They finished the day B'Kedusha. Then the next day automatically was Rosh Hashanah. That was the normal thing. That's what happened. Came along after the Korban Bayis was destroyed. Came along Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai made a takana. The whole reason for not accepting Eidos HaChodesh doesn't exist anymore. Why doesn't it exist? Because the whole problem is making a metakin klishir. There's no cliche. There's nothing. So this day we can go ahead, do away with it. We'll accept Eidos the whole day. The assumption was that day is Rosh Hashanah. If the Eidos comes, that day is Rosh Hashanah, and the next day is Chayil. That was the Havamina of the Gemara. Says Rabbi, no. What did he accomplish with that takana? Is that we're going to use the first day of Rosh Hashanah as a means of counting, which we do. The Yom Kippur is 10 days after the first day of Rosh Hashanah, not the second day. Sukkot is 15 days after Rosh Hashanah, the first day, not second day. So despite the fact that he accepted Eidos the whole day, right? It wasn't to be oika that the second day doesn't exist. The second day does exist. All he wanted to establish is we'll count for the calendar from the first day, but the second day always exists. The Mela, that's why Bisman Hazeh in Eretz Yisrael and all over the world we have 2 days of Yontif. 2 days of Yontif. Again, because the first day is just in the calendar, the original takana of maybe Eidos when kam is still intact, and therefore it's 2 days Yontif. One more time. Rabbi answers, even after the Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai when you did away with what? With the carbon, Beitzah Surah. Miloi moide Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai shembo edim in amincha l'mayla shenoig v'moisay yom kodesh ulemacha kodesh. He's moide that, right? V'amarava hilchas hakavasi d'Rav b'hanei tlas. These 3 things, whether it's Shabbos liyantif, which is a chumrah, Rav says the egesasa, whether it's a 2 Yom Tovim of Goliath, where Rav says the second day is mutter when it's born on the first day, and the chumrah by Rosh Hashanah, if it's born on the first day, it's also on the second day.
Ways. That's why Rosh Hashanah is Aleph Beis Tishrei and not last day of El, first day of Tishrei.
Yes, always.
That's the tough part of it, right?
So right, that's always Aleph, right? It's always Aleph.
Aleph and Beis.
Okay, so Bez Hashem, I hope to share 8:15 tonight. So therefore, we'll be on par not to be missing on Rosh Hashanah. So thank you for listening. We'll see you later in the day.
Question? Can I ask you a question? Didn't we have another